up, Rayvers. Got a 1980s Sean Connery science fiction film for you today as we hop over to Jupiter for Outland. Yes, Outland. And we kick off with a bit of blurb setting the scene for us, you know. And we're on one of Jupiter's moons. I say one of its moons. Has it got more than one moon, Jupiter? I don't know. Where's Professor Brian Cox when you need him? But yeah, we're on Jupiter's moon, Io. And we see these miners who are digging up titanium ore. Very disgruntled miners they are. Moaning about the working conditions.
But you read the contract. 8 workers per shift. That's what it says. 8. In black and white.
Hey, very topical that, ain't it? Because we've got loads of folks striking at the moment, ain't there? Pissed off about their working conditions. But that's by the by. Anyway, one of the disgruntled miners, Cliff Claven from Cheers, he starts to go a little bit loopy. And starts to complain of a spider in his spacesuit. And his mates are all going, he's taking piss. But no, he goes nuts and he opens his spacesuit and the change in pressure makes his head explode. What a pillock. Anyway, we then meet the mining facility's new marshal, Sean Connery, who's with his family as they're having their breakfast. Now, I'll be honest, Connery, he doesn't strike me as a very affectionate dad. Can't imagine him giving many hugs to his son, to be honest with you.
Oh, and remember, 7 pages of maths.
I promise.
Now, it's obvious that not all's well with the family, because it transpires that Marshal O'Neill keeps checking these shit jobs at these intergalactic mining facilities, and his wife, she ain't happy. She ain't happy, you can tell.
Just give it a chance. It won't be so bad.
Anyway, Connery has to crack on with his new job. And he pops over for a meeting with the mining facilities management group to introduce his son. And we meet the general manager, who comes across a bit of an arsehole.
Understand what I'm saying, Marshal?
Thanks for the advice, Mr. Shepard.
Drop by my office. We'll talk some more.
I'll do that.
And Connery's subtle performance conveys that he thinks he's an arsehole and all.
He's an arsehole.
Now, we then see some other miners getting ready for a shift, except this one bloke don't put his spacesuit on and then buggers off into the airlock, thus condemning his son to certain death. Why is he doing that? What a pillock. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, these miners on Io, they must be depressed, because they keep doing daft things to kill the sens. Surely the working conditions can't be that bad. And I was wondering, instead of mining for titanium ore, could they mine for silver? Every time they found some silver, they could go, I-O silver. Yeah, that really lighten up the mood, wouldn't it? Yeah, with the colleagues, they'd have a good chuckle about that every time, wouldn't they? I-O silver, yeah. But do they even have silver on Jupiter's moon, Io? And again, I thought, where's Professor Brian Cox when you need him? Hey, but we're in the age of social media now, ain't we? So I dropped him a tweet. Hey up, Professor Cox. Need some help? I'm watching Sean Connery's sci-fi film Outland set on Jupiter's moon, Io. They are mining for titanium, but I wondered if there was silver on Io. Thanks in advance. Much appreciated, Ray. Yeah, he's the go-to fella to speak to about science stuff, isn't he? But, yeah, he ain't replied. Anyway, it transpires that the workers on Io are not all clinically depressed or out like that. The problems with their mental health are stemming from the fact that they're all on these performance-enhancing drugs to up their productivity.
It made everybody work all right. Then it made them psychotic.
As Connery finds out, courtesy of the station doctor. Now, she's really good in this. Very dry, doesn't suffer fools gladly, and doesn't take any Connery's shit.
Is she going to be all right?
Maybe, if you let me do my job.
But all roads lead to the arsehole general manager, because he's the one plying his workers with these drugs, getting them addicted to these drugs, so that they up their productivity and maximise his profits. Yeah, he don't give a monkeys about the welfare, no. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And like any corrupt institution, the tentacles spread far and wide, don't they? As Connery finds out that one of his sergeants is on the take, and he starts to realise that he can't trust anybody. But the more Connery investigates, the more things start to unravel and the more the bodies start to mount up. And he ends up really pissing off the general manager by destroying his expensive shipment of drugs.
Marshal, you're dead. You hear me?
I hear you.
So, the arsehole general manager recruits some hitmen to bump off Sean Connery, and we get this build of tension as the anticipated arrival of the hitmen on the next space shuttle draws ever closer, and Connery finds himself increasingly isolated as his sheriffs all start to shit out on him by going, no, we don't really fancy helping you out here, mate, because we'll probably get bumped off.
Most of us, most are young, we have families.
I have a family.
And rapidly running out of allies, Connery shares a tearful farewell Zoom call with his family, who've told him they're buggering off to go to Earth, because living on these mining facilities is shit.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah, bloody hell, it makes me want to throw up. It makes me absolutely want to throw up. How old is that kid? He's far too old to be saying mummy and daddy. Mummy and daddy? Bloody hell. It must be an absolute embarrassment to Sean Connery.
Mommy says that on the flight.
Oh, God, he's done it again. Oh, my God. Oh, make it stop. Get him off.
I love you, Daddy.
Oh, God. Oh,
I love you too, Paul.
Connery don't mean that. He does not mean that. Crikey, O'Reilly.
You take care of Mummy.
I will. See you, Daddy.
Bugger off. Bugger off. Oh, unwatchable. I feel physically sick. Oh, God, yeah. Sean Connery there is tearful. Not because he said goodbye to his family and doesn't know if he'll ever see him again. No, it's because he's realised that kid can't possibly be his. Or if he is, then he's going to be nothing but a complete embarrassment to him. Bloody hell, if either of my kids said mummy and daddy when they're his age, I'd bloody disown them. Ugh. Yeah, this film, it was very reminiscent of a western like High Noon, where the marshal, played by Gary Cooper, has got this sense of duty that makes him try and do the right thing and face off against this evil gang who were coming to bump him off. And nobody wanted to help him either.
I guess you all know why I'm here. I need deputies. I'll take all I can get.
Yeah, look the other way, lads, look the other way. But it also reminded me a bit of that Copland film with Stallone in it as the good-natured sheriff who uncovers a load of police corruption. And again, he struggles to find anybody to help him because the potential consequences are too grave.
I mean, I want to be here for you, Freddie, but Lisa's nervous, I mean, she's pregnant.
So go on, I'll be fine.
So he has to do the right thing and take down the corrupt coppers by his son. Of course, the other great thing about Copland is Robert De Niro as the internal affairs officer with the terrible haircut and moustache. And of course, he utters that great line, doesn't he?
I offered you a chance when we could have done something. I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it! You blew it.
You blew it! You blew it, yeah. I love it. Brilliant delivery, that. Still use that line when I talk to my kids sometimes. On the road, the hitmen arrive, and we have a very tense final act, where it's a case of kill or be killed for Connery, as he tries to bump off the hitmen before they can do for him. Now, that's the second head we've seen explode because of the pressure on Jupiter's moon. And I thought, is that realistic or is it far-fetched? Who would know the answer to that? Professor Brian Cox, that's who. So I tweeted him, "Hey up, Professor Cox. I'm watching Sean Connery's sci-fi film, Outland, and need some help. Would somebody's head explode if they took off their spacesuit on Jupiter's moon, Io? Example below." Popped a nickel gif of Cliff Clavin's head exploding, just to illustrate my query. Thanks in advance, much appreciated, Ray. But he didn't reply to that one either. Yeah, he's supposed to be the expert on science. Very disappointing. Okeydoo, on to Ray's ratings. Well, I'll be honest. Yeah, although I'm a big Connery fan, and Connery was in this, it was in the 80s. And Connery were known for doing quite a bit of shit in the late 70s and early 80s. I think whether he accepted a role or not, depending on whether there were a golf course nearby. So yeah, I'd never seen this. I weren't expecting a lot from it. Best I were hoping for, really, were a 2-star film. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Basically like a western. It was like High Noon in space. And I enjoyed it. So I'm rating Outland a 3-star, 2-star film. I'll be honest, it might have even been higher had it not been for his son and the bloody awful mummy and daddy. Oh Christ, oh, get me a bucket, I'm going to throw up. Now, one of the things that particularly impressed me about it were how relevant it is today, as well as the disgruntled workforce who are getting shafted by the company, which has never been more evident than at the moment. Yeah, there were things like video calls, like FaceTime and that, and Zoom or whatever. You know, it's 10 a penny now, that sort of technology, isn't it? But it were unheard of then. And I'm really impressed with this golf simulator. Did they have them in the 80s? I don't remember them having them in the 80s. So presumably that's quite visionary, that. Because they're 10 a penny and all now, ain't they? In any decent driving range, you got a golf simulator. But unheard of then. Or were they unheard of then? Did they exist then or not? I don't know. Who would know? Professor Brian Cox, he'd probably know, wouldn't he? So I tweeted him. Hey up, Professor Cox. I'm watching Sean Connery's sci-fi film Outland and saw one of the characters using a golf simulator. Was such technology available in 1981? Or did they predict the future? Example below. Pop a little gif of the golf simulator in there, just in case you didn't understand what I was banging on about. Thanks in advance. Much appreciated, Ray. But guess what? They didn't reply to that one either, did they? No. Professor Brian Cox, if you're watching, I offered you a chance to be an expert on science, and you blew it! You blew it! Well, hope you enjoyed this week's review of Outland, Rayvers. And if you did, poke the like button for me. Give it a good poke, thank you. Share our reviews with your mates and subscribe to my channel if you ain't already a subscriber. Much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. Hey, and if you got Professor Brian Cox on your social media, you give him a polite nudge, will you? And go, oh, Ray's asked you some questions, answer his questions, will you? Yeah, I'm not trying to instigate a pile-on or get him cancelled or out like that. No, just it'd be nice just to get answers to my queries, that's all. Yeah. Anyway, I will be back, hopefully very soon, copyright box permitting, with another review. So I will see you next time. Okeydoo!